The views expressed on the Nova Society are those of the panelists and guests and do not necessarily reflect the views or opinions of the Phoenix Research Institute or any institution which any panel member is associated.
Welcome back to the Nova Society. I'm your host, Dr. Brooklyn Ann Weldon, and I'm here with my panel, Dr. Scott Gershwer and Dr. Mark Bound. Today we will be answering listener emails, and we have an email from Nina, who lives in Alexandria, Virginia. And Nina asks, China reportedly told the EU it cannot accept a Russian defeat in Ukraine. What does this reveal about China's geopolitical strategy and its role in shaping the outcome of the war? Excellent question.
You know, there's a cliche saying the quiet part out loud. I think this was done about a week ago when this came out, when Wang Yi said this to the EU's top diplomat. It's extremely disturbing, and it should be extremely on top of everybody's mind, and it doesn't seem to be. It would appear that we are in a new Cold War with proxies like Ukraine fighting for us against a massive and very, very capable enemy that consists at least of Russia and China, if not more.
Yeah, except that we really don't seem to know, or at least I'm not clear, what side we're on. We seem to be on Russia's side, although now I don't know. I'd heard that we had stopped, or that Pete Hegseth had stopped sending Ukraine weapons, that we didn't have weapons really to send. We had run out, or we were low in our stocks, and that Hegseth did not tell any of the senior Pentagon staff, and they learned about it on Twitter or by a memo or however they learned about it, but it was not by the proper channels. They did not have an actual face-to-face meeting as a professional agency from its head normally would. And then I've heard then that Trump has ordered that the United States, start supplying Ukraine again, because, surprise, Putin is not reliable as an ally, and he's not the big buddy that Trump thought he was. Wow! What do you know about that? So what is the most recent you have heard? I mean, we've seemed to be going back and forth, which doesn't surprise me. But I'm concerned that Trump is going to land back in Putin's lap, as it were, or at his feet. What's the most recent that you've heard, Scott? Because
me?
yeah, I just I mean,
you mean which side are we on today? Is that what you're asking?
Because I mean, Russia keeps attacking Ukraine, and it's not getting any better.
You bring up a good point, and then I'm going to turn it over to Mark. But you bring up a good point. We are possibly looking at a tripolar world, or a triumvirate of great powers with a lot of spheres of influence, and there is an impulse on the part of our leader to be one of those three great powers, rather than oppose the other two coming together, like as we did in the Cold War, where we opposed the USSR and its satellites, but mainly the USSR, to stop the spread of communism all over the world for ideological reasons. China and Russia clearly are bound together. China needs Russia to occupy NATO and the United States of America in Europe, so it may do what it needs to do in Asia and the Pacific. And of course, we have two coasts here. And right now, I would say you're correct. Trump has for whatever reason, leaned towards Putin in this, but only yesterday said, and I don't know if it lasted till 9 o'clock, but yesterday afternoon said that he was switching back to Ukraine and would provide the weapons and wasn't the one who was responsible for them not getting the weapons that we promised them, which kind of leads you to wonder who is exactly in charge over there at that White House. And I think we all know the answer, by the way.
Yeah, probably. It's Mo Curley and Larry. Uh, yeah. So in
Goebbels
response to
Jr.
directly to the question itself, what's China's geopolitical strategy? In my mind, I want to know why they believe. I really would like to know why they said they can't accept a Russian defeat. What is it about a Russian defeat that would impact them so much? And I think that's really one of the questions that I would like answered. What is it about Russia having to, and they didn't say that they needed Russia to win. They say they couldn't accept a Russian defeat. So, which is, a lot of people might say that's semantics, but it's really not when we're talking about international relations. It is not semantics. There is a huge difference. And I guess I looked at that comment made by China and I said, all right, what is it that Russia has, or what is it that China is so fearful for if Russia was defeated? Militarily, I don't think it impacts them in the least. China is not supplying the people or the soldiers that the North Koreans are. But the North Koreans are supplying soldiers. Does it have something to do with the North Koreans as opposed to just Russia? I mean, I understand there, as you say, there's a triumvirate here. So you've got China, you've got North Korea, you've got Russia. Maybe China's reacting to something that not only impacts just if Russia was to lose, impact Russia, but also might impact North Korea at the same time. So it'd be really nice to get a little bit more information as to really what the Chinese mean. To me, it was very cryptic. And again, it was basically saying, we don't care if it's a stalemate. We do care if they lose. Now, why do you care?
I think you know the answer to this, Mark.
Well, what do you think, Scott?
I mean, this is the great game transferred from the 17th, 18th, and 19th centuries over to us right now in the 21st century. This is that great game. This is exactly what that was. The Western world propped up the Ottoman Empire for 100 years to help balance against Russia, which they considered too large an enemy. We supported Japan in the Russo-Japanese War and were happy when the Japanese sank the entire Russian fleet, which had sailed all the way from the Black Sea around the world to get to the coast off of Korea, and ended up on the bottom of it, of the water, right? We were thrilled at that development because anything that hurt Russia was good for us. But at the end of all that, and we discussed that treaty last week a little bit, at the end of that, Roosevelt came away and said, we're going to be fighting Japan within the next 30 years or so, 35 years, which is exactly what ended up happening.
Yep, absolutely. Well, I guess my comment is that when the Russian war started with Ukraine, there was a lot of talk about what China would actually do about it. What would be their role, just as much as what would be the role of the United States. And in that conversation, I remember back to the conversation, we were talking that China had an opportunity, if they were to help Russia win, to make Russia a vassal state of the Chinese. Now, my comment is if the Russians were to lose, I would think that would make it easier for China to make Russia a vassal state. If I'm China, I want a Russia that is defeated and broken so that I can come in and I can rebuild it in my own image or whatever my actual plans were to make it a vassal state. So I look at that and I say, a loss actually, in my mind, would benefit China if the vassal state theory holds true. Now, if it doesn't, maybe there's more geopolitical, things going, in the back room regarding this.
Well,
but I
well,
just I mean that when I read this, that was ringing in my mind was the statement that China is going to help Russia. China is going to help Russia not with military as far as bringing troops in. They're going to let the North Koreans do that. They're the cannon fodder. And the Chinese, when it's all over and done, because they are there, they're right there as opposed to us. They're right there. And, bottom line is they're looking at it and saying, hey, we could make parts of Russia a vassal state. And the defeat of Russia, in my mind, only moves that forward.
Well, what about if Russia is defeated by that same thinking, and then if Russia's defeated, then might not NATO and European influence expand, and then China's got more, excuse me, more Europe, more NATO, more freedom, because Russia's the largest, the largest state or the largest nation. Right?
No, I don't buy into that simply because Russia is more ideologically aligned with China than they are with the Europeans, than they are with NATO. It would be a natural progression for if Russia was to become, they're not going to become part of NATO. Okay, not like a lot of the USSR. States that were in the USSR at the time, there's a few of them, they're part of NATO now because they wanted that. Russia's not going to become part of NATO. That is not going to happen. But they could become part of something different that involved the Chinese, the North Koreans.
The argument that I would have against that is that the students with whom I spoke in Russia, young people, educated people, they were not interested in the Soviet ways. Those were the old ways. They were getting their educations from English-speaking institutions. They were interested in the West. They did not care for the Russian Federation model. They didn't care for Putin. They were very much interested in the West and in what the West was doing and in Europe and in what Europe was doing. And they would love to travel. They wanted to travel. So I think that, and these were young people, young adults.
Yeah, but that's a small sample size, Brooke.
True enough.
But it's true enough. Brooke, I think you're bringing up something really important because this is not about Russia. This is about Putin. There's one guy with this vision. It's not a national thing. I don't think most Russians even know what's going on over there. And without Voice of America, they probably know even less than they did before. This is about one man's vision. And and look, on the other side, this is about Xi's vision. I'm not sure that China agrees with Xi and what he wants to do. And I'm pretty sure that none of us agree with Trump and what he wants to do. If Trump wants to be part of this triumvirate that takes over the world, that's his ambition. It's not my ambition or anybody else that I've ever met in my life. We oppose imperialism. We oppose the suppression of people in their own countries for some foreign power taking over them. That's the American way. We've never been like, at least outwardly, we want to take over other people's countries and steal all their resources. There's one guy who says that, and his name is Donald Trump. And he's said it since back in Iraq. He said, we should have taken the oil. We should have. So we don't do that. That's not what we do here. And yes, he wants to. And yes, Z wants Taiwan for sure. and I'm sure he wants the Philippines, and I'm sure he wants Japan and both Koreas together, and Lord knows what else, Australia. And what's stopping him right now is us. I will also say this, just to throw another analogy in there. We fought World War II and we decided that we were going to have a European first model of fighting. Europe came first, and we fought a holding action in the Pacific until we got done with the war in Europe. And once Europe was defeated in, I want to say, April or May of 1945, we turned our attention to Japan. And how long did it take to defeat them? From May until August. That was it. And I'm sure Z is probably a student of history, understands that if the United States turns its might toward the Pacific, that his country is in big trouble. And if we decide that we cannot live with China's expansion the way that we couldn't live with Japan's expansion, then we will defeat it, and we will do it harshly. And I think that's what he's looking at right now. As far as Russia being a vassal state, I think that you can weaken Russia to the point where it's not even worth having as a vassal state. It's not it's just barely a country as it is, and because of its dictatorship, the people there are not consulted. They don't know what's going on in the rest of the world, and even in their own region. So I'm not sure that Z looks at anything but that Russia is a distraction to us and takes a good percentage of our attention away, and that he wants Trump to continue the war without, as Mark pointed out, without losing it, but also without winning it. Just keep going. He wants a perpetual war in Europe, in Eastern Europe, so that we can't turn all our attention to him. And, the warlike talk that we hear from Washington, the trade wars, and all the other stuff that you hear from Washington, D.C., can't be helping that.
No.
We're not, as Mark pointed out, and he corrected me, and he was right. We should not look at China as an adversary. We need to look at them as I would say, a cooperative competition. What was that word again that we used to use in software? Coopetition. Coopetition. We compromise on some things, we cooperate on some things, and we oppose one another on other things. But we strike a balance, between them, and there's the peace. This statement by China is shocking, and it should get Trump's attention, and perhaps did, because he came out this week and he said anybody who sides with BRICS is going to get another 10% tariff. I mean, he seems to think tariffs are good for everything, but everybody who sides with BRICS is 10%. Dude, the R in BRICS is Russia. Your best friend. You're a Vlad Stop guy,
Yeah.
And I mean, I just, obviously there's no foreign policy right now,
No.
but I don't even think there's like foreign cohesion. In like there's no comprehension of the world at all coming out of DC at this point. So
Yep.
Good luck. Whoever sent that question, it was a great question. Thank you very much.
It is a great question. And there's a lot of different theories you could take from it. Scott makes a very good point. She wants this war to continue, just as we talked about last week when we talked about the conflict in the Middle East. Guys like Trump and Netanyahu, this is the only chance they have of being popular. If this doesn't exist, they aren't popular anymore. And my comment is, if China wants Taiwan, if you're going to do it, now's your time to do it. Because I don't think you're going to get very much resistance from the United States. Get somebody else in there, and we'll see what happens. So I
don't even think they need to go to war for it. They just trade.
Just walk in.
Trade for it.
Yep,
just
much.
Say, Trump, we're going to give you X, Y, Z, whatever they think Trump wants more than anything. It's probably a lot of money. And we're going to take Taiwan.
That's it.
And a Nobel Peace Prize nomination.
And a Peace Prize. Yeah, there you go.
That's what he really wants.
Yeah.
Netanyahu,
of course, has already nominated him, and Trump is all delighted about that. So
Can
yeah.
you imagine being that clueless that you're delighted that this guy is nominating you or Pakistan for that matter, nominating you for the Nobel Peace Prize? That is a level of cluelessness that I am even shocked that Trump has. You are being played, dude. See it.
Yeah.
See it.
Yep.
No, he can't. He doesn't have the capacity, and that's really disturbing.
Yeah, I'd say so.
Well, hopefully we answered that.
Yep, and that was Nina from Alexandria, Virginia. And thank you, Nina, for your question, and thank you to all our listeners for your support over the years. We appreciate your listening, and we appreciate your subscribing. And if you have not yet subscribed to the Nova Society on the platform of your preference, please do. That also helps us, and we appreciate that very much. And we will see you all again next time on the Nova Society. Stay safe.
The Nova Society is a production of Nova Society Media, a division of the Phoenix Research Institute. We'd like to thank our production partners, Buzzsprout, who hosts the Nova Society, Audacity, our editing partners, Apple iTunes, the largest source of podcasts and music on the internet, Spotify, the most popular platform for the Nova Society, and iHeartRadio, your source for all things music and podcasting. The Nova Society is available on all of these and other quality platforms listed in our description. We'd also like to thank all of our listeners. Without your support, the Nova Society would not be possible. If you have a question or comment, we can be reached at nova.society.podcast@gmail.com. So for Dr. Brooklyn Ann Weldon, Dr. Scott Gershwer, and all of our production partners here at the Nova Society, I'm Dr. Mark Bound. Remember, the true power in society is knowledge. Thanks for listening, and we will see you again next time. We'd like to thank our sponsor for this episode, the Phoenix Research Group, an independent research consortium offering social-political issue solutions to NGOs and international government agencies through multidisciplinary, nonpartisan, and unbiased research. The Phoenix Research Group is a division of the Phoenix Research Institute, the producer of the Nova Society podcast.